phase one posture. What are we talking about? Mainly the anterior pelvic tilt. This is when we dump our hips forward just because of how much time we spent in the seating position. What happens is the first thing that it disrupts is the length tension relationship with the hamstrings. So now the hamstrings are elongated, but they still have tension because of their dysfunction. So they're still going to have excess tension on each origin and insertion point. That means even if they're elongated, they're still going to be perceived as tight. And what a lot of people do is mistake tightness for shortness, and they want to overstretch their hamstrings, which then just makes this problem worse. Also leads to tight hip flexors, inhibiting the glutes and hamstrings. Again, these hamstrings and glutes are elongated, but they are not able to contract the way they were designed to. That's going to cause a whole world of problems, especially in our standing and moving posture. So that's why we're doing this. Why is this happening? You got to think about what we used to do and what we do now. How we used to move versus how we move now, and how we used to live versus how we do now. In the old world, there was a lot more movement, a lot more outside, a lot more things that came naturally to us, especially in terms of our natural evolution. Whereas now there are a lot more hours of us sitting down at a desk, in a car, and we are experiencing stress in those new postures versus the old ones. So posture is everything. Form follows function. So our new function is in this position, and our form is going to follow that. That's why you see all of these postural imbalances that affect our performance. I would say the anterior pelvic tilt is the foundation of poor posture and movement, especially nowadays, so we aim to fix that in this posture sequence along with everything else in the program. How do we do that? By stacking joints with our posture chores. So now, when it comes to exercising and trying to change our body, I feel like there's basically two approaches to that. One is the regular conventional weight room approach, where you do an exercise to strengthen a muscle, which will then in turn help shape your skeletal system. And we do some of those exercises in this program, but I think the main way that you change your posture is by inversing that equation. So now you stack your skeletal system first and then let your brain adapt to those positions. That's why this effort is going to be a 3 out of 10. You're basically getting into these positions, letting your brain find ease into that, telling your brain that it's okay to adapt, to feel safe in these positions, and then lightly turning on your muscles around those postures. And then the next steps is obviously breathing through those shapes and then trying to translate those shapes into our modern day lives, trying to feel that while we stand and walk, and obviously train for our sport. So the phase one posture chores to restore our pelvic tilt will be the 90-90 pelvic tilt, the wall sit with reach, the hip extension wall stride, and the hook lying hamstring bridge, and the side plank oblique crunch. These are all things, again, in phase one, in the phase one breakdown, the test that we did to figure out whether we were compressed on the front side or versus compressed on the back side or both. Some of these drills will help with that, along with the anterior pelvic tilt, because again, the anterior pelvic tilt, I think, is the foundation to all of these postural discrepancies. Now your breath. Obviously, we know by now our breath is one of the most important things that we can focus on throughout this process. So you got to think tense and shallow breath lead to an anxious mind. Slow and controlled breath is a relaxed mind. We want this because this is the thing that makes adaptations. This is fight or flight. This is bracing for impact. No changes, only helping you in the short term. This is what makes positive adaptations over time. Get mind to relax to these positions and feel safe, then it will adapt. So the breathing cadence would be inhale through the nose, breathe 360 degrees. A good cue is to try to feel that in your thoracic cavity. Basically, your breath should expand your rib cage in all directions. And part of that is feeling it in your back. It almost should help you spread out your shoulder blades. And you're pulling the air through your nose, but you're pulling from your diaphragm. So your diaphragm will descend, create that negative pressure to pull air in. We do not want to be thinking about straining the nose or the neck to pull in air. And then exhale gently through the mouth, lightly squeezing the side abs to expel all the air in your lungs. And then again, the effort should only be about a 3 out of 10.